What a terrible weekend.
Yeah.
Truly.
I mean,
it was one after another, guys.
So many terrible things happened this past weekend.
One of the world's most beloved Hollywood directors and his wife were brutally murdered in their own home.
So when it comes to his son, who I guess allegedly, we have to say, murdered his parents.
By stabbing them to death.
By stabbing them to death.
So by the way, slitting, I can't say it.
I mean, I can't even imagine, like, one of them, like,
one
had to witness it.
Oh my gosh.
One had to witness it and try to stop him, maybe, and then he came for them too. So this is something out of a horror movie.
Absolutely.
This isn't something out of a Rob Reiner movie.
Holy hell.
2 individuals opened fire at Jewish families. 15 people died, roughly 30 were injured. A 10-year-old girl was among the victims. Just absolutely devastating.
Just tragic. This is my first time hearing that a 10-year-old girl died. I have a 10-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
So the idea that could happen, it's devastating.
If you want to talk about extremism, I'm right there with you. But what they do is make all Muslims out to be extremists.
But I do want to ask.
Terrorists are terrorists.
They're
terrorists. They're extremists.
Can I please just finish?
But I know Muslims bad. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
that's
actually,
like the heart
No,
of it.
actually, I don't think Muslims are bad.
Okay, that's good.
I think they're extremists, though. With that in mind, Islamic extremists are a danger. Our relationship with Israel is toxic.
Yes.
Those two things can be true.
We agree.
Okay. Hi guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We have a fabulous show for you coming up. Please remember to like, subscribe. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for being with us this holiday season. It really means a lot. We have a fabulous guest with us. Her name is Josie, the redheaded libertarian. She's a mom, creator, and cultural voice who speaks candidly about liberty, family, and the world we're raising the next generation in. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I am co-hosting with the lovely Ana Kasparian.
Hi.
It's always a pleasure to be with her. Yeah, everyone knows about how amazing she is. All right, so we have quite a show for you today. We're going through 5 topics. A lot of them are pretty gut-wrenching, but definitely worthy of discussion. The first one is a Bondi Beach shooting in Australia. A bystander tackled and disarmed one of the Sydney gunmen. Anna's going to tell us about the factors driving the violence and what we can do about it to prevent another calamity like that. And she's also going to tell us about the Erika town hall with Bari Weiss.
Yep.
There's been so much controversy surrounding that. And a lot of public figures involved as well. And I'm going to talk about Nick Fuentes' viral interview with Piers Morgan. There's a lot to be said about that, and we'll discuss about who actually won the showdown, and we're also going to talk about Diddy and 50 Cent and what drives someone like Diddy to engage in such psychopathic behavior over a course of decades, not years, decades. And why didn't anybody say anything until he was caught? And finally, the very gruesome murder of Rob and Michelle Reiner, allegedly at the hands of their son. You know, a lot of these things are happening and developments are unfolding on an hourly basis. We don't really know what the truth is fully yet, but it's looking to be a very tragic situation for everyone involved.
In fact, a lot of the stories we're covering today broke over the weekend. So these stories are in fact developing. Please keep that in mind. We're filming this on Monday, so if anything changes,
We're
don't
doing
hold it
our
against
best.
us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Please extend some humanity. We love you so much, and we appreciate all the grace that you've shown us over the past year. So Anna, why don't you take it away and tell us about the Bondi Beach shooting?
Yes, so there was a horrific massacre that took place at Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia. At least 15 people have been killed and dozens injured in this shooting that took place. It did appear to target members of the Jewish community as they were celebrating the first day of Hanukkah. Now, the attack, which is being treated as a terror attack, took place as hundreds of people gathered to celebrate the first day of Hanukkah. And if it weren't for one heroic figure who intervened to basically stop the gunman, a lot more people would have been killed. We're going to get to that in just a minute. But the attack took place around 6:37 p.m. local time. 2 individuals opened fire at Jewish families on the crowded beach where more than 1,000 people had gathered for the celebration. Video shows a heroic bystander, a 43-year-old by the name of Ahmed al-Ahmed, obviously Muslim, from Syria, tackling and wrestling a firearm away from one of the gunmen. And in fact, we do have that video to show you. So you're about to see him basically wrestle the firearm out of the hands of one of the shooters. Take a look. All right, you see him kind of sneak up from behind, tackle the guy, or attempt to tackle the guy. And he doesn't end up shooting the perpetrator, but he ends up getting shot. Ahmed Al-Ahmed gets shot twice and is currently in the hospital undergoing treatment. He is expected to survive, but what an incredible figure for risking his own life in order to save the lives of others. And to be honest with you, it's a little bit of a white pill for me to see a Muslim man risk his life to save Jewish people on this beach, because a lot of the narratives around, Jews versus Muslims is pretty awful. But in this particular case, you have a heroic Muslim individual who, yes. Now, that doesn't take away from the fact that the two individuals, the two suspects in this case, also appear to be of Muslim descent. We're going to get to that in just a minute. But during a press conference, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu lied initially and said that the guy was Jewish, the guy who did the heroic act. He later corrected himself, but I'm glad he corrected himself.
Yes.
Now, despite the heroic act, again, 15 people died, roughly 30 were injured. A 10-year-old girl was among the victims, just absolutely devastating. There were at least 2 rabbis who were killed. Now, in regard to the suspects, police confirmed that there were 2 known suspects in the attack. There was a brief period of time where they thought maybe there was a 3rd shooter, but they've now confirmed that there were only 2. It was a father and a son. The son, by the name of Naveed Akram, was shot and killed, okay? But the father remains alive and is in critical condition in the hospital. Explosives were also found in a nearby vehicle, which law enforcement removed and secured. Now, there's another interesting wrinkle to this story that developed a little later in the day, and it was what was found in the vehicle of one of the perpetrators, and it's a flag, okay? So breaking, ISIS flag found in car of Sydney gunman. And that was reported by Australia's ABC. And here's what we know about their identities so far. So Naveed Akram, he's the 24-year-old son who was shot and killed, okay? His driver's license was found at the scene, and it showed him to be 24, birthday August 12th, 2001. He studied at Central Queensland University in Sydney and also in Islamabad. He went to school there as well. That's in Pakistan. He recently lost his job as a bricklayer. Now, the Jerusalem Post reported that there was nothing on his social media profiles that indicated anything about his political views, but clearly if you're going to carry out an act of violence like this, you are radicalized in some way. And I'm going to get to the second half of this story, which is the reaction, some might say overreaction to it, in the form of rolling back certain rights for Australians and maybe basically acting the same way the U.S. did after 9/11, right? Where the first thing was to attack civil liberties of innocent people. We'll talk about that in a little bit. There's also an effort right now to pin the blame on Iran, which I think we should discuss because ISIS and Iran aren't really friends, they're opponents. So we'll get to that in a minute. But first, just some initial thoughts on the shooting itself. I'll start with you, Josie.
Just tragic. This is my first time hearing that a 10-year-old girl I have a 10-year-old daughter. Yeah. So the idea that could happen, it's devastating. And I hate that this violence happens. Is there truth that the father and the son were Palestinian?
No, there's no
truth to that. Yes. So
they're
that
Pakistani,
had been
I believe.
Pakistani. Okay. Yes. So that had been released initially, and I'm like, I don't know about that.
By the Israelis, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It's extremely eerie to me that these tragedies have fallen twice now on December 14th. On December 14, 2012, we lost 20 children and 6 teachers at Sandy Hook.
Oh,
yeah.
And now on December 14, 2025, this tragedy strikes. And I'm actually really heartened. It's as though God planned it this way to show the world that people may have been wrong about Muslims, because a lot of people just assume that Muslims are, I'm sorry, I'm just sharing with you that Muslims are violent. But this man who took it upon himself to intervene completely undermines that narrative.
Well, this is why I always say it's so important to not have this weird collectivist mindset where you generalize about an entire group of people, whether it be Jewish people, whether it be Muslims, right? In this case, you have two Muslims who carry out this vicious act of violence, but you also have the heroic figure here who is also Muslim. You have to judge individuals, right? You have to judge individuals, and also you can judge an ideology, right? Extremism in any form oftentimes is deadly, oftentimes is cruel. And so you can be judgmental toward an ideology, you can judge individuals, but to say that the billions of Muslims all across the globe are the same is ridiculous to me, you know? So let's talk a little bit about the response to what happened, because things are already starting to develop that make people a little uncomfortable. So Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu honestly wasted no time in politicizing the tragic.
Just like he did with the Charlie Kirk murder.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I really wish he stopped doing that, because right now
never waste a crisis.
There's so many conspiracy theories floating around. And I just need people to understand this is how the conspiracy theories start. When you have political figures immediately begin to politicize a tragic event for their own agenda. Now, one of the first things he did was blame the shooting on Australians calling for a Palestinian state. Recently, you know, Australia said they believe the Palestinians should have their own state, their self-determination. And so let's take a look at what Netanyahu said immediately after the shooting, where 15 people were gunned down.
Your call for a Palestinian state pours fuel on the anti-Semitic fire. It rewards Hamas terrorism. It emboldens those who menace Australian Jews and encourages the Jew hatred now stalking your streets. Anti-Semitism is a cancer. It spreads when leaders stay silent. It retreats when leaders act. I call upon you to replace weakness with action, appeasement with resolve. Instead, Prime Minister, you replaced weakness with weakness.
There's no indication, no evidence whatsoever that the shooters in this case were motivated by Palestinians or by Hamas. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, after authorities raided the vehicles, they did find that there was an ISIS flag. And ISIS is completely different from Hamas, which is backed by Iran. And I'll tell you the difference in just a minute and why they're actually opposed to one another. But soon the narrative switched over to maybe we need to go to war with Iran, right? So the Telegraph puts out this piece. The Sydney terror attack may have been carried out by an Iranian-backed foreign terror cell, Israeli authorities believe. You read the piece, and they're specifically talking about Mossad and what Mossad is pushing. So this was written by Melanie Swan, based in Tel Aviv. Intelligence sources said the attack on Bondi Beach celebration appeared to be sophisticated and well-planned and carried the hallmarks of Unit 910, Hezbollah's feared external operations arm. Now, Hezbollah is also backed by Iran. So the idea is, well, these Iran proxies are causing so much pain, suffering, slaughter. Maybe we need to invade Iran. Maybe we need to attack Iran. But the fact of the matter is, let's go to History Speaks, who says an ISIS flag was found in one of the perpetrators' cars. ISIS is a mortal enemy of both Iran and Hamas, whom they condemn as infidels and worthy of death for being Shiites. And this is the thing, guys. They are like the people who drag us into wars rely on our crappy media that fails to inform people, and the fact that a lot of Americans don't know about the different sects within Muslim, you know, the Muslim community.
Okay. Netanyahu does this every single time.
Yeah, he does.
There's not a single opportunity he doesn't use to wage war, to try to gum up war for Iran.
Exactly.
And a couple months ago on this very show, I was wrong to say we should give him a chance. You know, when he was egging on America to bomb Iran, we bombed Iran because of Netanyahu, because he was asking us to. So we did their bidding. I was wrong to support that, and here he is again. It's the same story. I'm sorry. This is just very frustrating. We've seen this before.
I just don't want anyone to be fooled into supporting something based on a false pretense, which oftentimes happens when it comes to wars, right? So again, ISIS is a mortal enemy of both Iran and Hamas, whom they condemn as infidels. But let me also give you specific details on how they differ, right? So this is from the Wilson Center. They draw the distinction where ISIS, or the ISIS Caliphate, declared in July of 2014, practices a rigid Salafi interpretation of Sharia. The Islamic Republic of Iran is predominantly Shiite. Two completely different things that actually conflict with one another. The disparity between ISIS and Iran largely derives from their particular interpretations of Islam. ISIS, like Al-Qaeda and other jihadi groups, espouses a militant Salafi ideology. So to say that, and look, by the way, I mean, just because there's an ISIS flag in the vehicle doesn't necessarily mean that they're believers in the ideology espoused by ISIS. So obviously you need to do a deep investigation. But to say, based on the evidence we have right now, that for sure Iran was behind this attack is ridiculous, because there's just not any evidence indicating that. And Iran really stands to gain nothing from carrying out an attack like this. But maybe I have blinders on. I don't know.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I do want to say, you know, Benjamin Netanyahu needs a perpetual war machine in order to retain his hold on power. Without it, he's like a shark. He can't sit still. He has to be constantly moving, incessantly moving. Otherwise, he's going to sink. I also want to mention that I really loved PBD's response to this attack. His response went viral. I actually agree with that. Connor, I don't know if we can show it. I kind of align with more of his take, which is...
We'll get to him in a second, but I want to hear from Josie first, actually.
So the reason why Iran keeps coming up, General Wesley Clark gave the game plan on this 20 years ago.
Sure did.
Yeah, it was Iraq, Iran, Libya, Lebanon, Somalia, Sudan, and Syria. Yep, had to take them out, boom, boom, boom. And the last one that hasn't been taken out yet, Iran. And so it keeps coming back to Iran. Everything is Iran. Like, as soon as President Trump was shot the first time, they immediately said Iran was involved in this, remember?
Right, yep.
It keeps coming back to that because this has been the plan all along, and eventually they're going to get their...
It's a neoconservative wet
Yes,
dream.
John Bolton will get his war with Iran soon.
His warist mustache is going to, like, you know...
it's tingling.
Exactly.
And it's an injustice for the victims here, because this was a vicious attack and the victims deserve justice. And pointing fingers at the wrong ideology or the wrong group of people in order to further your political goals or your, war aims is pretty gross.
Anna, you're spot on. They do this every single time. Iran is 2025's version of Iraq and Afghanistan after 9/11. We bombed the wrong country.
Yes.
Iraq and Afghanistan had nothing to do with the architects of 9/11. It was Saudi Arabia, folks, guys. Like, honestly,
But they're an ally.
But in this case, we're not even talking about allies. Like, ISIS and Iran are not allies at all. But let's take a look at what PBD had to say about it.
So here's the irony of what happened at Bondi Beach yesterday in Australia when two Muslim terrorists killed 15 innocent men and women ages 10 to 87 years old, with 42 hospitalized, while a man named Ahmed Al-Ahmed, who happens to be Muslim at 43 years old, steps in, we've all seen the video, takes away the weapon, gets shot twice, is celebrated as a hero, which he ought to be. But you know what the irony is? The irony is even one good, peaceful Muslim man couldn't save the life of 15 innocent human beings celebrating Hanukkah, which is what their religion is about, from two Muslim jihadist extremists from killing them. So I don't care if 90% is peaceful. The 10% true believers, jihadists, that hate what America stands for, that hate the Western ideology, that hate us protecting women, us allowing women to vote, that hate the freedom of speech model that we have, that hate the Second Amendment model that we have, that hate the capitalistic society that we have. And we have to sit on the sidelines and be worried about being called Islamophobic? Really? I lived in Iran for 11 years and I saw what this was all about. If Americans cannot see what's going on in Australia, tragic event, breaks my heart.
Yeah, he's basically saying that Islamic extremism still poses a grave threat to Western society, and I actually completely agree with him. I think Europe especially, and I think this might alarm you, but it is my genuine view that a lot of, Trump just issued a report on Europe and the trends that he's seeing across Europe. I think they are on the brink of cultural collapse because of this unfettered migration.
I mean, I'm sure these people would like to stay in their own countries if they weren't decimated and totally destabilized by the US.
And we made a huge mistake.
We did. We totally did make a huge mistake. My point is, if you don't want mass migration and you don't want these refugee crises, then stop doing Israel's dirty work for them.
We are aligned on that.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But I also don't, I am never going to go along with Israel's disgusting smears of the entire Muslim population, because that's what they do. That narrative has been installed in the United States by Israel. And if you want to talk about extremism, I'm right there with you. But what they do is make all Muslims out to be extremists.
And that's not, clearly that's not the case.
And by the way, plenty of extremists within the IDF. Okay, you want to talk about a threat. I mean, what country surrounding Israel hasn't been bombed by Israel? Israel is currently annexing land from Lebanon. They've already annexed land from Syria. They were very much in support of Project Timber Sycamore, which was the U.S. foreign policy of arming literal al-Qaeda in Syria, which is why we now have an al-Qaeda terrorist leading the country of Syria. I'm just saying, a lot of the destabilization, mass migration, and the issues that we're seeing in the Middle East and Europe is caused by U.S. foreign policy that does the bidding of the Israeli government.
Right, but we also have to address the outcome of the issues, which is unfettered migration into Europe.
We have to decouple from Israel, because this problem is going to get worse. It's going to continue unless the U.S. The U.S. should decouple from Israel entirely.
100%.
Yeah, because it's going to continue.
We should have done that like 50 years ago.
Yeah,
we should have.
I totally agree.
Like, we should have done that from the very beginning, but there are also huge issues in Europe where they have a declining birth rate and they're losing the Western, the cynosure, like the essence of Western civilization. I do think that Islamic extremism is a threat. We just saw a couple weeks ago with the Afghan individual who drove all the way from Washington State to kill two. Well, one of them is still hospitalized, but we just lost a 20-year-old National Guardswoman to someone who he had mental health issues as well, but he was apparently radicalized. He wasn't able to find a job, and then he fell into hard times. So, yeah, I think two things can be true at once. Our relationship with Israel, I'm sorry to say, someone's going to attack me for this.
It's okay, let them attack. Who cares? It's the truth. Okay, I mean, on behalf of Israel, we have literally funded and armed the very terrorist groups that our government fearmongers about.
I'm about to say something I've never said before.
Let me say one other thing. Abu Shabab, who's now dead, okay, Hamas killed him, but Abu Shabab was the leader of an anti-Hamas militia in Gaza that was being armed by Israel. Abu Shabab, the former head of the Popular Forces, as they're called, in Gaza, had ties to ISIS. They were smuggling drugs into Gaza through ISIS.
Do you think two things can be true at once, that Islamic extremism is a grave threat and also our relationship?
I think Israel and the United States creates terrorist groups, and then they prop those terrorist groups up as what we need to fear and fight back against. How about you don't fund and create the terrorist groups to begin with?
I agree with that, but I agree with that, Anna. I agree with that. And you really helped to inform me, too, on the dangers of Israel. I completely agree with you. But I do want to ask, is it possible that we hold two theories in our head at once? That
the terrorists are terrorists. They're terrorists. They're extremists.
Can I please just finish?
But my point is, those extremists exist because they've been propped up by our government and the Israeli government.
Okay. I just want to present this.
I know Muslims bad. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
that's actually, like the heart of it.
No, actually, I don't think Muslims are bad.
Okay, that's good. I
actually don't think that. I think they're extremists, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I am drawing a distinction between the extremists, which are propped up by the U.S. government, who I am against, and I'm against the U.S. government propping them up. They should be distinct from the entire Muslim population. But oftentimes that distinction doesn't get made.
I'm making that distinction.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. With that in mind, can I present the question that Islamic extremists are a danger? Our relationship with Israel is toxic.
Yes.
Those two things can be true.
We agree.
Okay, perfect. I'm so glad we found consensus, because those are the two pillars. I think we need to, on that note, since we've established a moment of solidarity, let's move on.
Hold on. Did you want to say something else, Josie?
My only point is that I think that you can value the biblical nation of Israel without honoring the 1948 nation state of Israel.
Yeah, totally agree.
Because that's manufactured, whereas the first one is
biblical.
You know, exactly, spiritual.
Yes,
it's different.
exactly. And there's a conflation of those, and you're not really allowed to decouple those.
Right.
And so that's why, you know, they'll take that and say, well, we have to honor it because, you know, we're a Christian nation and that sort of thing. But I think that there's, it's foggy. There's a lot of haze there, and I think that there's room for debate.
Yeah, it also deeply bothers me that Ambassador Huckabee always uses religion as a shield.
Yep.
I'm Christian. I'm deeply Christian. I've been a lifelong Christian. And he's basically saying if you're Christian, you have to support this nation state.
No,
and
It doesn't say that in the Bible anywhere.
No, I completely agree with you. I'm just saying that it really bothers me when he says that, though.
Absolutely. It should, because it's unbiblical.
He's basically saying if you don't do this, you're a bad Christian.
Yep.
And he's not my pope.
No, of course not.
I don't have to listen to you. He doesn't have papal infallibility.
Yep.
Either way, look, the issue of anti-Semitism is real.
Yep.
Blaming anti-Semitism on individuals who speak out against what's currently going down in the Middle East is wrong.
Yeah.
And if you have a problem with extremism, then you should also have a problem with the extremism that's espoused and carried out by the nation state of Israel. The slaughter of innocents, which apparently they think is totally fine when they do it,
Because
should be
it's
called
war.
out. Yeah, it's not war. It's not war.
Yeah, I know.
Killing 20,000 children who are trapped in a tiny little enclave, not
According
war.
to estimates, 20,000 is actually low.
An underestimate, yep.
Yeah.
Is it 82%? Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, that got heated, but I just want people to be... And
I want to clear the
Yeah.
air here. I'm not painting an entire community. I'm talking about there's one or two extremists, literally one or two, like literally. in
Well,
Australia.
no, there are extremist groups, right? Al-Qaeda is extremist. ISIS is extremist. The point that I'm trying to make is not to gloss over their extremism or to make excuses for them. They're awful terrorist groups, 100%. My problem is a lot of people, not you, but a lot of people do conflate them with the entirety of the Muslim population. I also have a problem with the fact that we prop them up, okay? Currently, Israel is arming the popular forces in Gaza, which have ties to ISIS. You know what I'm saying?
I also heard somebody on NPR say, like NPR is not known to be extremist. They said that Israel funded these groups, and we should definitely move on because then this could go on all day, but Israel funded these groups in order to goad them into attacking, and then they use October 7th as a way to expand.
I mean, the same thing happened with Hamas. I mean, Netanyahu facilitated the funding of Hamas, propped them up in order to discredit the Palestinian Authority, which was actually trying to work with Israel in order to finally get to a place where you have a Palestinian state. But Netanyahu doesn't want a Palestinian state. He's on the record saying that. He's always been on the record saying that.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you want
But
to talk about a really good friend of Netanyahu who recently had a town hall with another really good friend of Netanyahu's?
Sure. Okay. So let's move on to...
oh, by the way, I'm not even done. Okay, I got to finish this because this is too good. Let's talk about a friend of Netanyahu who was interviewed by another friend of Netanyahu on a network that was just purchased by two friends of Netanyahu.
Fair enough. So let's get into this Bari Weiss story. So Bari Weiss hosted Erika Kirk on CBS, where Bari Weiss is now the editor-in-chief, to essentially address a whole host of topics, but mainly they discussed the various conspiracy theories that are floating around in regard to Charlie Kirk's assassination. Now, there have been a lot of conspiracy theories. Most people who are invested in what happened are not quick to believe the official narrative, right? So, and that's because there's been a lot of weird, inconsistent things by our FBI, claims made about how the shooting went down. We can get into that in just a second. But first, I want to start off with how Bari Weiss framed her question to Erika Kirk on this matter. And then before we get to Erika Kirk's answer, we'll discuss the framing of the question. Take a look.
Yet there are a huge number of conspiracy theories, you might call them brain rot, that are spreading right now online about the actual story behind the reality. One, people say that Tyler Robinson was actually a MAGA Republican. Or two, some people say you were actually a Mossad agent sitting in front of me, and you were Charlie's handler, and Israel killed Charlie. Right. Other people say that a number of men in the crowd were wearing maroon T-shirts, and this signifies that his killing was an elite airborne operation, whatever that means. They say that the rings on your fingers which are
my kids'
initials,
my wedding band, the Medal of Freedom, my engagement ring.
But apparently they symbolize some kind of secret plot. There's also a new theory that Egyptian aircraft have been tracking you. What is going on? Why are there so many conspiracies spreading about what seems to be a pretty open and shut case?
Now, Bari Weiss sees it as an open and shut case, but many others don't. So before we get to how Erika Kirk responded to that, Josie, what did you think about the framing of the question?
She was leading. She was leading. I mean, it's not cut and dry. The way that all of these assassinations happen, whether it's JFK, whether it's MLK, whether it's RFK, they're all framed exactly the same. There was a lone gunman. You know, he was at some kind of distance. They happen in public, so then there's a lot of issues with the discernment about that. And oh look, oh my God, the lunatic pulled it off. This is the way it was for every single one of those. But it always comes out later that, you know, maybe there was some CIA involvement. Maybe there was another country involved. Maybe, and you know, maybe.
I mean, what happened with Gretchen Whitmer several years ago?
Same thing.
I mean, there was entrapment that wasn't reported, widely reported, right? Where our FBI was entrapping the very people who allegedly were, you know, plotting to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. So you're right. I mean, as the story develops, you get more information that actually complicates the official narrative a little more. Now, I will say, so far, there's been no hard evidence linking Israel to Charlie Kirk's assassination. I think the reason why those conspiracy theories arise is because of Netanyahu's behavior immediately after the assassination happened, right? Where he's, again, using that for his own political purposes. In fact, I remember him doing an interview where he blamed the marriage of radical Islam and radical leftists, which, I mean, what are you doing? Like, what? Like, stay out of it. Like, stay out of our country. Like, we're in a moment of trauma right now, and we don't need, you know, some foreign country coming in.
Meanwhile, he's been to the White House 6 times, yeah.
Right, exactly. So there's that. But also, yeah, there's just the bullet thing, and I'm not a ballistics expert, but that whole thing about
Also
how
the
his
paving.
amazingly strong neck stopped a bullet from
Exiting.
yeah, exiting and all of that.
But not to mention the fact that they paved across the crime scene within days, which is highly unusual. You're supposed to, you know, leave it alone.
They really paved over it.
Yeah, like I mean with cement.
Exactly.
I don't mean this like figuratively. They dumped cement over the crime scene.
So here's what Erika Kirk had to say in response to the question.
Everyone always has to think there's more to the story. Well, sometimes there's not. I've seen the autopsy report. I've seen our case pulled together. I've been in constant contact with our lawyers, the prosecuting team. I've seen it all.
Has there been an autopsy? Because there's some question about whether or not an autopsy was done. The head of security for Charlie Kirk says that he ordered an autopsy immediately and that an autopsy was done. So you can take his word for it. Erika
Apparently,
Kirk,
he also lied. Did you see that? He lied on the
didn't
Shawn
know.
Ryan show. Apparently, he lied about calling 911, and nobody did. Nobody. on
I
his
didn't
team
know
called
that.
911.
Okay, because I was referring to the Shawn Ryan show.
I have been, I'm not sure if I should admit this, but I've been seriously Candace-pilled. I have been reading everything on her timeline, and some of it, I mean, I'll withhold judgment, but some of it is a lot really interesting. And there's been a lot of inconsistencies about the timeline of exactly why didn't anyone in his team call 911?
So I wanted to be informed about, because I know that the Candace angle is a big angle to this story, and if I'm going to talk about it, I want to be informed. So I started like watching or listening to her podcast, and honestly, I was lost because there's so many different threads that she's following, and none of it really connects together. And I'm just like, there's a Pierre involved, and then a second Pierre, and then there's the Macrons, and I'm like, how is this all tied together?
Yeah, I think she's tapping into this need for transparency and accountability that we're not getting from Kash
I agree
Patel.
with that. I totally
She's
agree.
recognized that, just like Trump recognized that Americans were dying to drain the swamp. Candace Owens is recognizing that Americans are hungering for someone who's deeply real, and we just don't have that right now.
Yeah, so before we get to the addressing Candace Owens part, Josie, what do you think about her answer?
I think her answer was too simple, given what I just said about RFK and MLK, like, yeah, this is the narrative. This is what we're told to believe. Personally, and I say this as somebody who, I love Charlie. Charlie was my friend. It's still hard for me to talk about him. Like, I still get choked up when I think about him and have to talk about it. I don't believe, if it was Tyler, which it could be, he is innocent until proven guilty. We do live in America.
Right.
If it was him, I don't believe personally that he acted alone. I'd like to know more about the Discord chats. I'd like to know, because there always seems to be somebody feeding some information. And this, people, you don't just believe the first narrative you're told, because history shows that you don't do that because of assassination history in this country. It's never the way that they say it is the first time. So it's okay to have an open mind. It's okay to look at these angles. So I don't believe personally that he acted alone, and therefore I don't believe the motive.
Right.
I don't believe the motive was anti-trans, woke, like furry, like I just don't believe that. And I don't believe Charlie's best friends were involved, and that was something that Candace had brought up, so I would critique her on that. I think that her digging into this came from initially a very, very good place. She really wanted to find out who murdered her friend, and I want to know. I want the truth. I want justice as well. But it became sensationalism. And to me, Charlie's not ratings bait. Charlie isn't ratings bait to me.
Yeah, look, I think that right now the thing that's super off-putting is, for all the criticism that Erika Kirk is getting, I think it really has to do with like the book tour and like, so people don't like that. But on the Candace end, I do think that people are uncomfortable with, yeah, like the way she promotes her episodes and all of that stuff. Now, that being said, she has unearthed some things that are important to know.
Yes.
Namely, the text exchange between Charlie and other people associated with Turning Point USA in regard to him being bullied by the Zionist donors, demanding that he basically avoid including Tucker Carlson or Dave Smith at these Turning Point USA events. And he said, it leaves me with no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause. I think Candace was furious with TPUSA because she felt that they were withholding that information from the public.
And they were.
They were, yeah, that's true. Now, keeping that in mind, that doesn't mean every thread that she's pursuing is, I don't know how to put it.
Valid.
Valid, yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah, and
valid.
it's just like two things can be true at once. There could be problems with this sprawling organization, as there are problems in any organization. And, you know, it doesn't have to be this like transnational France-Israel international operation.
Yeah, it's super confusing, and like none of it makes sense. The stuff that does make sense, I think we all know about already.
Although
right?
I feel like Erika answered a question that wasn't asked. In no circumstance did Candace ever allege that she was on the Egyptian plane.
That was very interesting.
Erika Kirk chose to answer a question that wasn't even addressed.
Did she know?
She said that she was pregnant for 80% of the time, which wasn't true.
Yeah.
It was a course of like many years, and that she'd rather be at home drinking chocolate milkshakes and eating In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah.
Right, that she's never been on an Egyptian plane.
But
again,
nobody said that she was.
Nobody said
the
that.
claim is that she was being followed and tracked by. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, hopefully we get more information about that. But I do want to move on to what she had to say to Candace Owens about the, you know, sleuthing and the attempt to investigate this separate from the FBI. Take a look.
The podcaster Candace Owens, okay? At one time, a friend of Charlie's, at one time, an employee of Turning Point. She has been one of the main peddlers of these conspiracies, and she is making a huge amount of money on it. She is building her business off of these lies. What do you want to say to her and the other people that are putting these lies out into the world right now?
Stop. That's it. That's all I have to say. Stop.
And Candace did respond to that. Now, prior to this conversation happening, Candace Owens had said on her show that the only person who could get her to stop investigating Charlie Kirk's assassination is Erika Kirk.
Or her husband.
Or her husband. So here's what Candace had to say in response to Erika Kirk telling her to stop.
like me to stop lying. And I would like to honor that, okay? I can only honor that if Erika is more explicit in terms of what I have lied about. What did I lie about? It's just incredible. Like there have this opportunity. The questions have been before. You could just start like going through them. Maybe they will. By the way, it's coming on Saturday. Maybe I've made a mistake somewhere and I'm happy. I want to correct that, right? I'm not interested. My goal is not to tell lies. It is obviously plausible that I have made mistakes. I've reviewed these lists that we've put together and I can't find the lie, okay?
Okay, so after that, something kind of shocking happened where Erika Kirk announced that Candace Owens and I are meeting for a private in-person discussion on Monday, December 15th. Candace Owens and I have agreed that public discussions, live streams, and tweets are on hold until after this meeting. I look forward to a productive conversation. Thank you. I think that private conversation should have happened prior to the Bari Weiss exploiting this tragedy for her own CBS purposes. But nonetheless, I'm glad that they're going to meet privately because I do think they should hash it out privately.
Yes.
Speaking of Bari Weiss, I just want to say another thing that's kind of brave, and it might tank my career, but I mean, whatever. It is what it is, right? This woman might be at the helm of CNN soon.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Right now,
yes.
Because David and Larry Ellison just launched a hostile takeover bid of Warner Brothers and CNN and HBO and whatever HBO is calling itself these days. The name changes all the time. But this is actually, I think it's very dangerous to put so much power in the hands of one woman. And a lot of people say that it's really just because of her beliefs.
No, it is because of her beliefs.
It's not because of her abilities or her record. She doesn't have any experience running a newsroom.
She's the editor-in-chief. Do you guys understand how unusual it is for the editor-in-chief to be on television? Like, this is crazy. In fact, let's read this quote because the staffers at CBS like very clearly can't stand her, and they're leaking to the press left and right. One staffer said, "How embarrassing. Bari's been editor-in-chief for 5 seconds and has revealed that all she really wants is to be on TV herself."
Yeah, and I'm really heartened by the fact that advertisers have fled. They refuse to fund this town hall, quote unquote.
Yep.
And they just, you know, and
they had
also
ads for Chia Pet. Like networks tend to have like a slate of ads that they go to when they have a hard time selling ads for shows, right? And that's certainly what happened in this case.
Chia Pet.
I know.
And Bari Weiss had made comments, like censorship comments too, recently about, you know, this is dangerous disinformation and we got to shut that down. You know how that worked out last time.
So she's doing that while simultaneously during the special making the case that people need to have honest conversations, open conversations with one another.
Yep.
You're not interested in open, honest conversations. Yep. You're interested in controlling the narrative and only allowing exactly what you believe to be true to essentially fester within the news division of CBS, which is the wrong thing to do.
It gets even worse, though. She does a follow-up interview with the crew of CBS Morning, and she talks about Erika Kirk as though she was some religious figure. It almost it was like she became a Christ-like figure, which made me a little bit uncomfortable. Like, I mean, Erika Kirk is obviously a very strong woman, but she's not like Christ, you know? But the way that she talked about her was so reverential.
Anyway, it was a choice to do this for CBS. It is what it is. There were other elements of the conversation that we don't have enough time to get into, but
clearly they didn't do this. Clearly the purchase of CBS wasn't for ratings, it was for control. It was for information dissemination and the melding of American minds.
It's for propaganda.
And I don't think it's going to work, to be honest. I think people are pretty privy to it. And the thing about people like Bari Weiss is they're not sophisticated in hiding what they're trying to do. Like, they're pretty brazen about it. You know what I mean? So we'll see how it plays out. But going along with this conversation was another interview, and that was one between Piers Morgan and
my gosh.
Fuentes.
Yesterday, something horrific happened that had reverberations around the world. One of the world's most beloved Hollywood directors and his wife were brutally murdered in their own home. I lack the words to describe the magnitude of the grief. And I am very heartened to see an outpouring of love from both sides of the aisle. I think it's actually noticeable that even though Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, were staunch liberals, conservatives have come out in droves to express their love and devastation over this, with one notable exception that we'll discuss later. But I would love to get your initial thoughts on this immense tragedy, and it's actively unfolding right now. Sources say that the perpetrator, the person who murdered the couple, was their own son, Nick Reiner, who has been cycling in and out of rehab for the past 17 years. He's also endured periods of homelessness. Rob Reiner and Nick have actually made a movie together in 2016, which is partly autobiographical. And despite this, despite all, the mountains of love that his parents have showered on him, he still wasn't able to unleash himself from the grips of addiction. So I would love to get your thoughts on what happened, Anna.
I mean, it's such a horrific story, and it kind of speaks to a bigger, deeper issue, certainly in California, but I'm sure other parts of this country are dealing with it as well. And it's the lack of inpatient mental health care, right? Mental health care facilities. I'm not talking about, the wealthy, drug rehab places that wealthy people send their kids to, where they're basically going on vacation for 30 days and they come out. I don't know, by the way, I'm not blaming any of this on the Reiners. I don't know what kind of treatment their son got. But my point is that you do see a lot of people struggling with severe addiction or severe mental health issues, and this country doesn't prioritize the resources necessary to treat them effectively. And it's not just about treating them, it's also about keeping the general public safe. Because if they're in the grips of some sort of psychosis, or they're having some sort of episode, or they're high on something that might make them violent, that's a threat to public safety as well.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And when we shut down those institutions a couple decades ago, when we shut down the mental asylums, what do you think happened? A lot of these individuals ended up on the streets.
They did, that's right.
And we need to do something, and rather than just the default, which is nothing. Josie, what do you think? What are your top line?
I was stunned to hear this. I mean, I'd gone at it with Rob Reiner on X a few times, as much as we differed politically, he's like so much of my life and my children's life. I mean, The Princess Bride is one of my
Can we also just talk about the stretch, a stretch of just phenomenal movies?
Yes.
The Princess Bride, Spinal Tap, what was it, Misery?
When
Harry Met Sally.
He was behind Harry Met Sally?
Yes.
Yep.
Wow.
He was also more recently involved in The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yep.
He was also in All in the Family.
A Few Good Men.
Real talent.
Yep.
This was generational, by the way.
The Bucket List.
Exactly. Yeah. And also his father,
Carl Reiner. Oh, Dick Van Dyke.
Exactly.
It's just has my entire heart.
I'm shivering right now, and it's not just because I'm cold. I'm
Carl
shivering.
Reiner, too, he only died 5 years ago. He lived to be very old, so there could be been some longevity, that Rob Reiner had ahead of him. And so when it comes to his son, who I guess allegedly, we have to say, murdered his parents.
By stabbing them to death.
By stabbing them to death.
So by the way, slitting, I can't say it, and I don't want to get suppressed on YouTube.
Horrifically, exactly.
Google it if you're curious. It's
horrifically killed them.
Yeah.
So you got to wonder, we know that the son, Nick, was homeless a few times. So it sounds like his parents weren't enabling him if they were letting him be homeless. So I don't know. I don't know details on how bad his addiction is. I haven't watched that movie.
He had just returned home recently, too, which is
so
terrifying.
he could have been on bath salts or something horrific that would make him lose his mind, or it could have been malicious. He could have been a sociopath. To the darkness that you have to be in to kill your own parents, to kill your own mother. That's the darkness that I don't understand, that I never want to understand. But we don't know if it was something he was on, like you said, Anna, or if he was just that damaged of a human.
I also want to give so much credit to all the conservatives out there who are pouring out their love in an unadulterated manner. Yes. And this isn't just one or two. I've seen a mass, an avalanche of love. And I also want to give Rob Reiner, the man himself, a lot of credit when he went on Piers Morgan's show a few days after Charlie Kirk was murdered, he displayed such tremendous humanity.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it is beautiful.
Can we watch this?
Yeah.
When you first heard about the murder of Charlie Kirk, what was your immediate gut reaction to it?
Well, horror, absolute horror. And I unfortunately saw the video of it, and it's beyond belief what happened to him, and that should never happen to anybody. I don't care what your political beliefs are. That's not acceptable. That's not a solution to solving problems. And I felt like what his wife said at the service, that the memorial they had, was exactly right. And totally, I believe, I'm Jewish, but I believe in the teachings of Jesus, and I believe in doing to others, and I believe in forgiveness. And what she said to me was beautiful, and absolutely, she forgave his assassin. Yeah. And I think that is admirable.
I think not only is he going to be remembered for his movies and his artistry, he's also going to be remembered for what he said about Charlie.
That was beautiful.
This was someone that he disagreed with on every single issue, because Rob Reiner wasn't just your average liberal. He was an intense liberal.
Because he sees the humanity in people regardless of their political views, and that's so important. Yeah. Wow. I hadn't seen that interview.
I think amazing. Oh my gosh. I want to cry. This is just, it's
still developing, and I'm sure we'll get a little more clarity about the son's mental condition and whether or not drugs were involved at the time of the attack. But it is just an awful, horrific story, and something I think about a lot lately, because as you get older, you start thinking about your own mortality. Is when my mom was in the hospital and there was a pretty big chance that she wasn't going to make it, I couldn't get past the idea that my mom was going to die in a hospital, right? Like it was eating me alive. I was having like panic attacks in the middle of the night thinking about that, because you live this life, and for you to go in that way where you're not surrounded by your family, you're not in your own home, like it was heartbreaking. But think about the last moments of the Reiners' lives. Yeah. And the horror that they experienced as they were forced out of this earth. Like, it's awful.
So I didn't sleep last night. I unearthed something from 2015 in the Los Angeles Times. And this is when he was on tour. Rob and Nick were on tour promoting their joint movie, Being Charlie. And this is the first line from that article. For years, Hollywood director Rob Reiner and his wife struggled as their son Nick was addicted to hard drugs, rotating in and out of rehab facilities like they were shopping malls. The couple wondered if there was an end in sight, and whether it would be the tragic one that a voice in the back of their heads kept telling them was coming. Oh, holy hell. Yeah.
I think that they were probably more thinking it was going to be their son that they were going to find, and not that he was going to commit this horrific. I mean, I can't even imagine, like, because you think he killed both of his parents. So one of them, like, one had to witness
Oh my
it.
Gosh.
One had to witness it and try to stop him, maybe. And then he came for them too. So I can't even wrap my head around this. This is something out of a horror movie.
Absolutely.
This isn't something out of a Rob Reiner movie. This is something out of.
What a terrible weekend.
Yeah.
Truly. I mean, it was one after another, guys.
So many terrible things happened this past weekend.
And this is, I think, we have to destigmatize mental health, because it is still very much stigmatized in this country. We don't have mental health parity in all states. And what I mean by that is a lot of insurance companies don't treat mental health like physical health.
Right.
They cover your physical ailments, but when it comes to mental health, you have to shell it out yourself.
Well, also, we're in a culture that celebrates people who are mentally ill, celebrates them, or like that sort of thing. So, trans children, for instance, this is something I'm very opposed to.
I agree with you.
Trans children, they need help.
Yeah.
A lot of time, the amount of children who are, it's something like 80% of kids who believe they are trans have been abused in some way, physically, sexually, emotionally. So
and a lot of them are
and they don't feel safe in their own bodies. And that's something big. Then 60% of boys have a mother with a cluster B disorder. So they have a mother who's like, hey, look, I'm going to change. I always wanted a daughter. Now I can have one because it's like having a puppy.
That's so interesting.
44%. 44% of boys who believe they're gender dysphoric, they grow up without any treatment, they turn out to be gay. So
yeah,
what they're
that's
doing,
true.
yes,
I read that study.
exactly. So,
And not only that, I mean, to your point, I don't know if it's still a thing, but there was a period of time a few years ago where, yeah, I mean, there was this movement, and it was espoused on TikTok, where people were being encouraged to not take their medication if they had bipolar disorder, or people were like, for whatever reason, they would diagnose themselves and make their made up mental illness like their identity, and, you know, made content off of that.
Yep.
And so there are some weird things going on with it. I think it's died down a little bit, but I don't think we should stigmatize mental illness, but I don't think we should reward people for like self-diagnosis
Exactly.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, and one reason why I've been openly telling people that I do feel anxious on occasion is to make it okay for other people to admit it.
Yeah.
Because I know that there are people in my family who think it's shameful for me to say it out loud.
That's super old school, though.
I know, but I
Yeah.
come from, unfortunately, I come from an old
Same.
school culture.
yeah, our parents, our parents didn't talk about
And
mental
for
health
me
at
to,
all.
Yeah.
for us to admit vulnerability is very, very hard.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's very hard. So anyway, I hope that everyone, I don't know, this Her Take community has been so loving, and I just want to express our shared gratitude for all of you, and especially this holiday season, having the show, having this opportunity to actually speak our views without a script, without a censor. No one is telling us what to say, by the way. Everything here,
Yeah.
this is Anna and our thoughts. This is my thoughts.
Yeah.
And it's just and it exemplifies American dream. Being
It
able
totally
to talk
does.
about it. So
But you know what doesn't exemplify the American dream?
our president, yeah.
Oh, you wanted to go to Trump. Both. Well, Diddy too. But if you want to say that about Trump.
Well, okay. I think Diddy is actually the safer one. Should we end on? It's up to you, Josie. Should we end on Josie or Trump?
Let's go Diddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do Diddy.
Let's do
well,
Diddy.
So Diddy and 50 Cent had a documentary out on Netflix.
I love how you just said that.
I'm a huge Indie Club fan. I love, people think I'm like some demure classical music. I am a classically trained pianist, but I listen to
She gets
hip-hop.
wild.
I know my Ja Rule, my Cameron, my whatever, Ashanti. I listen to all of that.
I could rap a little Eminem.
Okay, hold on. So 50 Cent puts out this documentary about Diddy that's not in any way shining a positive light on him. But he decides to do this over some sort of grievance. I don't know anything about the grievance. I know the grievance, but
wasn't he shot? He was shot like 8 times. Did that have to do with Diddy?
Nothing.
No.
No, that was completely.
That was different.
Yeah.
It always goes back to the
But the
shooting.
thing
I'm like,
is,
was he involved
50,
in some way?
50 brought all the receipts. And
But why do they have bad blood? Like, I don't understand what their beef is.
Because 50 was one of the only people in the entire industry who was brave enough to call him out on his SHIT. Why did I just spell it? I don't know.
Okay.
But so there were a number of things. Did he use? You guys all know. We don't really know anything groundbreaking. It just reveals the depths of his, for lack of a better word, evil.
Mm-hmm.
He exploited sex as a means of accumulating power for himself.
Mm-hmm.
And 50 is actually, I think he's now threatening a documentary on Jay-Z.
Oh.
Because Jay-Z and Diddy were very good friends.
Yep.
And so people are saying there's no way that Jay-Z didn't know how despicable of a man this was.
Mm-hmm. So I haven't watched through the entire series yet. I've watched like a few episodes and learned a lot, including who Diddy's father was and how he was a hustler. Mm-hmm. And the fact that Diddy looked up to him. Like, he wanted to live up to the hustler, identity, I guess. And that was telling. Like, that was his origin story, according to this docuseries. And the fact that he was willing to stop at nothing in order to accumulate fame and power for himself. The way he treated the artists who signed on to his record label, and essentially like all these incredibly popular artists who had massive names were broke because Diddy wasn't paying them. It's wild.
He might have even raped one of them, Aubrey O'Day.
I mean,
allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly. I need one of those valuetainment caps that say allegedly, because I get myself into trouble all the time. But there was another big reveal in the documentary, and I'm a huge fan of Biggie and also Tupac. I just love rap in general, guys. Biggie apparently was good friends with Tupac, and Diddy was the one who created the bad blood. And there was another theory that Diddy recorded his famous song, what's it called again? I'll Be Missing You before Biggie was even murdered.
Oh, I don't know.
Which is insane. He definitely profited massively from it.
And danced.
Yeah.
How he insisted on being in every music video. Like, it's just...
There is a level of narcissism that went into Diddy. And you think about the power and the manipulation. He had this desire to maintain and power and control. I don't know if he wanted to fulfill his personal desires or gratifications or what, but he wanted to protect his public image very, very deeply. And he'd do so just by exploiting the aspirations of others, exploiting them with sex. And now that you bring up his father, because the narcissism, it can be learned or it can be biological. I mean, this could have been a learned behavior that he was like, well, my dad was like this, but he also could have inherited it
Yeah,
too,
it was like
you know?
the amalgam of evolution and education.
Exactly.
His mom would throw these like rager parties, like total bangers.
She also beat the shit out of him.
Yes, exactly. So like he had an unusual and somewhat abusive upbringing.
But that's not an excuse.
Then that's,
No, I'm not making an excuse for him at all.
Psychopaths have those upbringings.
Yep.
Psychopaths
Because I know,
share
like,
that.
we've had difficult childhoods, but we turned out fine.
Yeah.
For the most part.
I mean, I had a good childhood, but my mom especially, was very, very strict, like in ways that would not be kosher today. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. But you turned out beautiful. I also just want to tie this in really quickly with the political part. P. Diddy, by the way, last time I tried to bring this up, another one of our co-hosts tried to shut me down, but I'm liberated now and emancipated. P. Diddy was a huge Democratic donor, especially to Barack Obama.
2007, Vote or Die. You remember this?
Yeah, of course.
The Vote or Die
Rock
campaign.
the Vote.
Yeah,
that
Rock
was
the
him.
Vote. Yep, Vote or Die.
He was a huge Kamala Harris supporter as well.
Hillary
was? Clinton. He was just the Democratic establishment boy.
Yep.
And they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything because he was their golden boy.
But this is the through line when it comes to all sorts of bad actors who exploit others, who sexually abuse others. I mean, there's a reason why he's being referred to
as Black Epstein.
Yeah, because it seems like a lot of this behavior was happening out in the open, and no one was willing to do a damn thing about it. Similar to the Epstein
He was so
story.
powerful.
And also, on top of it, he was in the public eye, much more than Epstein was. He was in the public eye, so society has enabled this.
Yeah, and I think it's so deeply ironic that, you know how we got this footage in the first place? He was the one recording it. Yep. He thought that he was going to use this footage to exonerate himself in the eyes of the American people.
Wrong again, Bob.
I love how things happen like that. And I think I just want to end on this note. I don't just want the Epstein list. I want the Diddy list.
Yeah,
I want to know the celebrities who abetted the situation for decades, because this was decades. I remember this was still going on with when J-Lo wore that famous green dress at the VMAs. I know my TMZ gossip. I do. This has been going on since the 1990s.
No, I know.
All the way up until basically 2023, 2024.
I kind of want to know which of the victims were complicit, because they weren't victims for 30 years.
Well, that's why the situation with Cassie Ventura was so complicated, because, that's why the jury wasn't completely sold and only indicted him on 2 of the 3 counts. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Any parting thoughts?
Just look out for the pedos.
Yeah,
the sexual exploiters. And there's many of them around us. Some of them are operating out in the open. Absolutely. And there's no punishment for it. It's crazy.
That's exactly
right. And I think as a society, we're a very sick culture.
We are.
Yes.
To say the least.
I mean, we enable this. Like not me personally, not you personally, but as a culture, the majority, they have this morbid curiosity. They have idolatry.
Yes.
They have this desire for drama. They get the dopamine from this. And we got to do better. We have to have higher IQs.
Yeah.
There's more out there to think about and to make you happy. Find God, find your family.
Especially family. I mean, for me personally, that reigns supreme.
That's a beautiful note to end on. Josie, where can we find you?
I am on X at TRHL Official. X is formerly Twitter, but most of you know that. Also, I do outside media work with timcast.com, so you can go over to timcast.com and become a subscriber and help support our work that way. Also subscribe over there at Timcast Media, Rumble, everywhere you get shows. To Timcast shows, and then my show is called Spaces X Josie. I interview people, and it's fun.
You guys can find me over at X at Ana Kasparian, Instagram, Ana Kasparian Official, Manect. Just search my name, you'll find me. Send me a question. And you can watch me usually Monday through Thursday over at The Young Turks, youtube.com/The Young Turks.
I'm Lindy Li on Manect and everywhere else. And thank you so much for watching today. Please remember to like and subscribe. We are so grateful for you, and happy holidays.